Cool. So I guess I'll go first since I got it started. Yeah, things are really good. I did a lot of coding yesterday, which made me really happy and really, frustrated and banging my head against the wall. And
You love it.
yes, I actually, got blocked on something and within 6 hours put it to the side and said, you know what, I'll come back to it later, which is it's progress,
Yeah.
I put it to the side. And yeah, so a couple of the things I worked on is Sam and I were in a meeting yesterday for local sports, and he had mentioned about, hey, it'd be nice to automate our VCR cassettes. So I was like, well, I'm going to Google that. And then I found out that they have a method that's called re-record interval or something like that. And you can just configure it to re-record. So I did that for website one, and then fixed the failing tests and pushed that in as a PR. And then I did it for local support. But yeah, local support wasn't quite as easy. There's quite a lot of failing tests as still. And a lot of them seem to be due to like Google API limits, query limits, which makes me think we're not stubbing those tests for some reason, even though some of them have been flagged with VCR and or Billy, which I understood as being is a stubbing service. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but won't go into too great of detail. And then I poked around the recurring events that Sess had started. Well, actually, someone else had started, and then Sess had continued, and then I was bored, and so I grabbed and pulled that down. And actually, it was at that time. I don't know. Some of you will remember when we were getting those really weird like notifications when running tests to do with Rubocop and stuff like this. So you couldn't even really see in CI why it was failing, and looking at the raw logs didn't really help so much. So I thought I'm going to run them locally, and there wasn't that many failing tests. So I grabbed it down and ended up getting it kind of working in the sense that the tests aren't failing anymore, and it is recording the events as recurring or not, and it's displaying them on the calendar. But yeah, I talked to Sess, and we were talking about maybe pairing on it to today, and seeing if we can finish that out, write tests for it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping to use this Scrum and pair hookup to set a time or talk further with Sess about that. And also yesterday I got that PR in for website one, which is working again in a second way that's cleaner and has been extracted into a separate method for the that little fire of the README links being broken that one of the project managers, Sage, brought up. So yeah, I think it probably can be improved, and it's actually it's actually failing the build because of a code complexity thing. So the extract method that I'm using is too complex. So maybe I need to extract even more logic. Yeah, which is something. Yeah, Elizabeth also put in that PR that I gave a review on, and something her partner helped her to. She like extracted into like 5 different methods that are all like kind of bite-sized methods, which I thought was pretty cool, and maybe it could be something I could use in this case. And blockers, yeah, I'm blocked on that local support VCR thing. That maybe we can have a look or not. We're going to be sprinting next week. And yeah, today I have after in a few hours I'm going to give another dry run of my talk with incorporating some of Sam's advice, and just giving it a go a second time, trying to talk a little bit slower. For a friend of mine who has done a few talks and is not a native English speaker. So I'm gonna I want to go to the Elixir mob, but after that I need to really. Yesterday I didn't do anything with slides, and I feel like I could just not pay attention to doing that stuff at all, and it would probably be fine. But I think I'm gonna spend some time today doing that and not not doing as much coding. And yeah, that's me. the whole 15 minutes. Sam, you're in next.
Hey, yeah. So what's going on? I always struggle to work out what happened the previous day. I got like a bit of an echo there all of a sudden. Oh, it's gone away. Yeah. So yeah, yesterday we had the local support meeting with Brent joined us, and that was nice, planning the sprint for next week, and you know, there's many different things we could work on. Certainly won't have a dearth of things to do during next week's local support sprint. This morning I was hoping the last fix to the Anthony Powell Society paid project database. I'm really hoping they'll sign off on that today and we'll get the last bit of the money from that. Then I went out to the local women's centre in Harrow, which is one of the local community organisations that we're kind of trying to support through the local support project. And they are having technical problems in their office, in that their manager moved on, and they have basically a series of Windows 10 computers, and they can't log in certain accounts, and they need help. And so I've kind of I spent like half an hour there, and like I've got like some notes which I'm planning to write up about the problem. And I think that basically we have to crack, if I'm going to help them, I have to crack the password on their Windows 10 computer, which I'm sort of investigating in the background. I still said to them, you know, sorry, I couldn't immediately fix things. So I'm planning to go back there. You know, I also want to interview them for my new podcast on local charities. And yeah, so that's, I've got a new Snowball mic. That's the box. The mic is in my bag anyway. For doing that, the roving reporter. So then, I just got back in time to sit down with Ben Pollard, who is running a sort of a charity organization in the UK, or at least they're trying to be a charity, called Local Welcome, which is all about arranging meals with local residents and refugees who are fleeing, you know, countries in distress. And they've got some funding, and they have been posting to the London Ruby users group about trying to find a technical lead. So they're looking for a technical lead, and they're particularly keen to employ a woman to maintain their diversity in their organization, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, so I said I'd be helping. I was telling them all about adventures. They're very interested in the social prescribing stuff that we do for NHS, and they want to know more about that. And yeah, so that was a good chat. Interesting to hear about what they're doing. They're very design focused and how they design these experiences for people in order to try and, you know, I think, you know, welcome refugees and try and help us, you know, sustain communities. So that's all great stuff. So then I guess I have any blockers? No new ones that I can recall, and things coming up. The Elixir Mob is coming up, but I'm going to work on writing up all the stuff that I just found out. And then what else? And then we've got I think both Website 1 and NHS meetings coming up later today. That in the calendar. So yeah, which, you know, but Matt will obviously be working on the slides, so no need for him to attend any of those if he doesn't want to. Yeah, that's me. I think it was Cess was in next. Hey Cess, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was not able to join the local support meeting yesterday, but I watched the video and I'm excited about the sprinting next week. Cool. Yeah, and then I was looking at my PR. I've been working around it. I have some few blockers, but I think we'll figure that out with Matt later. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
Hello.
Hey Faith. So, yeah, how's it going with you?
So yesterday the Rails 5 TDD mob was amazing, and then I had I had the task of robocopying everything. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, robocopying all things in RFM, which went fine. It was merged. So next up, I'm looking forward to a weekly meeting. Should be this evening, and creating a rec task to do what I did yesterday. Yep. That's all from me.
Fantastic. All right. I think it's that hand wavy time that tells us we're in after Scrum. It's the after Scrum. No, and on time. I mean, yeah, it's like there we are. It's 12:14. Bam.
Wow.
Less than 15 minutes. It's we're here. We're here. So if we I didn't actually take any notes, but so there was Matt with a blocker on VCR. Cess with the events, but you're going to pair with Matt later. Faith without any blockers.
I have a quick comment if about I don't know, it's just if one of the things I saw, like I can send you as well if you want. In the meantime, I found a video and blog about using the gem, the recurring select. I'm definitely interested in getting Sam's opinion about the approach, because I'm not sure, because I know Website One uses recurring events as well, and I'm not sure. I think they do it in a different way, and I'm not sure if you're going to like the approach of you're familiar with the recurring select, Tim?
I think only as much as it's been mentioned in the. I don't think I've used it. I mean, Website One uses IceCube, but then don't confuse that with thinking that means that I like IceCube per se. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with IceCube. I think the way that we have things implemented, like with whichever gem architecturally in website ends up being very unperformant based on the number of events we have. Yeah, so there's a lot of potential architecture issues in how one would implement recurring events, in terms of both choice of gems, but then also like how do you store the data up front, and like so you basically store a snapshot of the next 2 months recurring events in the database, so that when you read it, when you do a look at the site, you just see them, or do you calculate them on the fly? And that's the thing that I think makes the big difference to performance in Website One. But then, and it turns out as the number of events has gone up in Website One, that's been a big issue for us. Would it be an issue in local support?
Particularly the other thing as well with local support is that there's only the upcoming 10 events added to the calendar at a time, so that maybe makes a difference in how many are actually loaded.
Absolutely.
They I guess the thing is, I think maybe Seth, that might have been blocking you, that blocked me for a little bit, was the fact that you added recur to the permitted params, and that's I mean, as you would think would be logical, but actually the way I saw it done is they actually override the getter method for recurring, and you have to deal with some dirty path params or something like this. But anyways, we can get into specifics later, but yeah.
Okay. I also had that thought, because when you are using recurring select, it selects according to a day of the month or a day of the week, so it doesn't actually put the start date that you took and then adds a week. So I was thinking, is there a need for me to use recurring select, or just use IceCube? Because IceCube, I might need to do away with the recurring select helper and just be inputting weekly, daily, and then just calculating the backend. So I'm also thinking on that line.
Yeah, I think the thing that recurring select gives you is they give you that drop down that you can use. That helper is really nice, and also you can choose you can drop down and you can choose select rules or something like this, and it pops up this nice modal that you can choose. But you get into some trouble because it's JavaScript, and then if you look at the event params, I dropped in a buy bug because local support doesn't use binding pry. And
you can make that change. You can make that change, and then we'll be all smiles again. So go on, Matt.
That would be the biggest contribution I think I could make.
Every little counts.
And I could even put pry buy bug for those people who might have Joneses for buy bug.
Sharing the joy, spreading the love.
But yeah, I put buy bug in there, and you can see in the event params the recur is null, which is is a JavaScript value, and it's a string, and so that gets you in trouble with Anyways, it's pretty interesting you yeah, like I guess maybe I'll respond to your message on Slack. And
yeah. Well, I'll just jump in and say I think that sounds like a great pro for recurring select. I mean, I think one of the things that one might want to do is lean off writing lots of code and lean on doing an assessment of the pros and cons of each approach, and kind of and writing lots of code as well. But it's yeah. So that's, I mean, it's an important area for Agile Ventures generally, and managing these kind of event things. I guess I'd just like to, I mean, I'm going to go and get my bagel in a minute, but I wanted to just highlight a couple of things related to some of the blockers that we have. The particular thing that I wanted to highlight was this London Ruby users group, which I mentioned a few times recently. And even if you're not in London, it's worth joining this group, because like they have just a mailing list here, and just so you can just go into that page. I did just I pinged it in the website one channel. Maybe I should put it in Tech Talk.
What page? You're not sharing your screen.
Am I not sharing my screen? Oh, ridiculous! I've pressed the sharing screen button, but then it's stuck on the selecting thing. So no, here it is. So here is the. Go back one page. Oh, go on. There it is. This is the London Ruby users group. So they have a meeting every month in London. But there are lots of people on the mailing list who are not in. They're in America, or they're in Japan, or whatever. It's just like a little friendly group that chats about Ruby and stuff. Let me put this in the Tech Talk channel as well. So I'd say it's definitely worth joining that mailing list if you don't mind a few more emails. In particular, as part of writing my book, Emotional Open Source, I've started taking some of the things I feel most emotional about in our open source projects and asking on the LRUG list about that. I mean, this is kind of like, it's a rather old system here, but you can see that this is the archive. You can, if you sign up, you'll have access, or actually even without it. But so, so you can see here, actually, so I was asking this question about VCR caches, and we've been having quite an extensive discussion about approaches to VCR caches on the London Ruby users group, which may be interesting reading. As I say to Matt, well done for going and finding that resetting option. Someone on the mailing list did also mention that, and we've been discussing it. I guess it sounds. So the thing that I worry about is that if it's set up to automatically renew each month, right, then that's going to happen. Let's say it's like started now. So the next on October the 19th, let's say I might be in the middle of writing a feature. I'm going to run it, and suddenly, who knows what state my code base is in, right? I might have a failing test that I'm just about to get to go green, and I won't necessarily remember, oh yes, that's the exact date at which all the VCR cassettes get deleted. And so it seems like, like what's really valuable, what you've done here is this looks like a complete renewal of all of the VCRs for website one. So that's top. So we can just get that in. What I would be cautious about merging, and actually, I mean, we can merge it and then change it, but that actual, I probably can't find it immediately, but that actual thing that makes the VCR like do that automatically, I'd probably leave that out. Do you know what? Am I making sense about my fear?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had the same thing, I wrote some notes, like one of the things, like for website one, it seems like there's kind of 3 tests that would need to be updated, which are all related to the DevOps GitHub thing. And like, I guess there definitely is that issue. And it's already people don't see about the, read all the way down on our README about the acceptance test, bashing and the VCR clean billies or whatever. So that, adding more stuff, it's definitely, there's going to be times that it falls through the cracks. So I'm not sure. I mean, there is that line as well that's like to clean out the old ones, but I guess that would do the same thing. I'm not sure how that would be any different. Like, I guess it's not immediately clear what time limit that would be on, but
yeah. So, I mean, I think that this is, I mean, the way that the discussion is going on the LRUG is leading me to think about that we would maybe stop using VCR, and so there's a sort of a broader chat to have there. I mean, I think there's a, the problem with this one. I guess I thought a moment ago I was able to quickly get to the actual part of the thing in there that does changes the config of VCR. But so, I mean, I think rather than diving into trying to fix this specifically for local sport, although we still may need to do that, I guess what I would say is I'd encourage you to have a look at some of the discussion in the LRUG. Although what I'm going to be trying to do is pull that discussion out of the LRUG and turn it into a more general chat that becomes a part of the book. And my plan going forward is to keep asking questions on LRUG, because I find that they're much more they're much chattier than, like, I've been posting to the VCR mailing list and the VCR issues, and no one has responded to my question about, oh, how do people cope with VCR when you're onboarding lots of new people and people are not trying to use it and this and the other. But the LRUG's being much more responsive. So
I found I just shared a link as well that I did do. I didn't do reading about recurring events and that kind of stuff, because I was just working off the good work that Seth had already done. But on the VCR stuff, I did read this from Semaphore, and it talks about different ways that people will deal with stubbing services and why we want to stub services and all that kind of stuff. And like basically they said there's not really any perfect solutions really. Like they all kind of involve taking snapshots and those snapshots getting out of date and then needing to be updated. And like I guess like I just you have to be careful what you say about like, oh, it'd be good to automate this, because then after you fall asleep I might just go try to do it, but like
yes well, no, I think that the key thing about the automating, like the depend I mean, yes, I mean that's a very good point. There's a blog that was, there was a blog that was posted in the LRUG discussion. I think that the failure on my part is what I should have made sure is that you are, in the same way that we've got you on like the ESAS instructors list, is that I should have made sure that you had access to this whole discussion that we're having going on about VCR. The key thing about what I've been suggesting about a dependable version of VCR is not that it would use the VCR function to like reset the things every month. That just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. The dependable model would be one that would basically every month automatically delete and re-record, or just delete and submit the pull request, if you know what I mean. So it's a different kind of thing there. But so there's lots of things to look into there, and you'll be on the LRUG mailing list, and so all of my future questions that but I've got a whole series of technical ones will be accessible to you. Go on.
Yeah, I wonder if we I mean, it sounds like because that bit of configuration is part of just a Ruby file, VCR Ruby. So I mean, I think you would be able to just schedule a cron job, but then like how to get that into a PR instead of
well, that's the trick, rather than the I mean, yeah, you can have a cron thing. That's what Dependabot is presumably using under the hood, or Ansible that Brent was mentioning in the local support meeting yesterday. So anyway, but that's something to be looking into, like within the broader context of what's being there. There are some other approaches being suggested in the LRUG discussion that sort of inform us there. I was gonna say then, when you said you were bored for a moment and looking for things to do, I was thinking, if you're ever bored, the thing that we do have is the NHS thing hanging over. Like, so you got you remember like that little breakthrough at the end of the last week's sprint?
Yes.
You got it so that the official MediaWiki Docker was up and running, but then it had the local settings missing. So the kind of if you're ever like, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm just sitting around, should I watch the wall? Like pushing that along is always a great thing if you're ever in the mood for it. Yeah.
Cool.
I guess, is it clear there what the next step is from your point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just configuring it to the same configuration that we have on production, basically.
Yeah, or well, even before that, it's just working out like in the way that what the King Square does already is, and I presume even the Bitnami one is, they put a default local settings thing in place and make sure it connects to the local database and this, that, and the other. So that would be what we probably wouldn't want to do was immediately try and use our existing local support thing with all the bells and whistles. We want to make a vanilla template working, that it was put in the right place and so on. See that's working. Then there's like HTTPS and then so gradually one at a time we can keep updating a little bit of time. Oh, I make a change to local. Anyway, you know what I mean. We can.
I did have a question about that, like at some point, maybe in the NHS Wiki meeting, I can show you, because like when you pull up that instance, there's like a button that you can. There's like a link that you can click on that's like, you know, follow us to get set up with Media.
Yeah, I know the one.
I'm not sure if that's a good path to go down, but
I think it won't. It's interesting to know about. I think it won't work in our context, but yeah, let's absolutely look at that then in the NHS Wiki meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was the things on those blocking errors. I was going to mention to Faith on the Harrow Woodcraft side. I don't know if this is a project that we're doing in the context of the web dev mob. We've started setting up like personalized subdomains. Were you following the conversation in the Woodcraft Harrow channel?
Not really.
No. Oh, not all right. Well, I mean, we can if it's there's this setup. I mean, the thing that's going on, and Matt and Seth may be just interested to hear about this. So this is another non-profit project. Not really going to make any money, but we're going to be using Jackal, which is a little static site generator that's quite popular and is the default for what's it even called? GitHub. But so what we've done is, so I bought the domain name for the client, and that is now, we've got like a default page up. We've received all of the kind of graphical materials from them, but we've got like a default website up there. But so in order for people to sort of like work on it, what we've got is now I've created subdomains for each of the people who are potentially interested in working at it. So for example, Peter, so that's, you know Peter, don't you, Matt? You've been doing the weekend collab stuff with him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's now got his own like at peter.harrowwoodcraftnewmembers.org.uk that corresponds to his fork of the main repo. And so anyway, anyone's more interested in this, I've set it up already to work. So this is Peter, Javpet, there's Faith, there's yours, Linda and Fiona, who are also both in the web dev mob. So I've set up the domain name settings for this so that in principle, everybody can have their kind of own separate staging server where they play around with, different versions of it. So I think Linda just set hers up, and yes, and they're all the same at the moment. Anyway, we'll be getting into that in more detail in the web dev mob on the Friday morning, but just in case you were, I thought I'd mention to Faith that's kind of going on, and your ones, anybody else who wants to create like a little fork with their own sub name in there, I can add you, but yeah, Faith, you're set up and good to go.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, I guess then one last piece of news before it's bagel time for me is I've created a new channel called BC Dev. So we've got this. There's the government of the state of British Columbia in Canada have put their entire kind of digital technology commissioning system like online and using GitHub, and so some of you may know about we've previously applied to work on their Moose Tracker app, their First Voices React website. We have yet to be successful, but they are offering real money to work on these open source projects, which is of course what where we want Agile Ventures going. That we have had 3 new opportunities come through. There are 2 of them which seem to be involved with JavaScript and the R programming language. and another like a big sprinting one, like to like help them with their room booking system, which is like that one's got like that's for 190,000 Canadian dollars, and does require some in-person work. But I'd like if they paid us that money, I'd happily fly over there and have a bit of a chat. Anyway, but so if anybody's interested in this, this is a private room here. I'm very happy to add you, and you know, like if people want to get involved in pitching to the Canadian government of British Columbia, let's get some more of those things in there. Maybe we can. I think it's still early days. You know, we're practicing the process of submitting, but hopefully, as we get better at submitting and we find the right opportunity, eventually this could be more funds for paid work in Agile Ventures.
Do you care to comment on the controversy caused by the conflict between sprinting and mobbing?
Oh, well, since you mention it, yeah, that's it. Well, we also have, there was this question of should we remove the React mob, but it's sounding like we're not going to remove the React mob. Federico was worried about the premium mob's quality being deteriorated by scheduling sprints at the same time. And yeah, so I thought that was an interesting comment. And yeah, I think my two thoughts I had immediately is that, well, yeah, Local Support has generated revenue in the past. It is at the moment an expense, and we need to pay that down. I think my also idea was that in the sprint weeks that maybe mobs would kind of align with the sprints. I was also thinking that originally the mobs were designed as 1 per month, and we kind of upped them at the same price level to 4 per month at effectively what is sort of an unsustainable cost, really. And so from my point of view, if they become bi-weekly for some, in the short term, so I was sort of starting to compose a, you know, all those ideas into a response to Federico, which I will do at some point. Yeah.
Fastball at you.
Sorry?
I said I thought I'd throw a fastball at you.
Yeah. Well, no, I'd seen it and been digesting it and thinking it over, so it's all there, ready to trip off my tongue. Yeah, it's a good point, and it's good to think about the balance between these things.
Yeah,
go on.
It's difficult because, like, I think a lot of the mobs were originally scheduled to align with your schedule as well, or with you know, I maybe not just your schedule, but
well, not so much my schedule. They were scheduled to align with those people who were waking early in the US and doing them before they went to work in the US. So that's where they've ended up being as a sort of a compromise position. So I mean, then there's the question of yeah, there's a lot of flexibility there. I mean, to me, I wasn't imagining it necessarily as a, you know, seeing it as such a conflict for people between being involved in the sprint or the mobs. We've set the deep learning mob as being bi-weekly, and for me, that's much more manageable. But so yeah, we can continue to. I mean, do you have any thoughts, Matt? Either way on this.
I mean, it's nice to be able to participate in the mobs, but then also as well, like I'm already complaining that we don't have enough time for the sprint. So that's a bit, you know, like
yeah. I mean, another thing to do is to make the mobs longer in the off weeks. Yeah. So that you know, like rather than doing a 1 hour mob every week, do a 2 hour mob every second week.
Yeah.
Which is also a way to get more. So, but yeah, please do chime in there, and I'll be put and Faith and Cess as well on any thoughts you have about that, and I'll put my thoughts in there too.
Yeah. Also, we don't sprint on the same thing, so we don't, you know, from week to week, it's going to be different, you know, a different focus, and so.
Yes. Although I mean, I sort of have this idea that, like, for example, let's say we're sprinting on website 1, then on the week of sprinting on website 1, you know, conceivably, if you were still having the mobs, they could be like, all right, how can we use React in website 1? Oh, how can we use Elixir in website 1? And who knows? I mean, it's you know, an ongoing evolution. I mean, we will have to be continuing to be retrospectively looking at all of our these things and potentially changing them and doing them differently. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you in the website 1 meeting.
Yeah,
then.
I'll be there. I think I have between the Elixir mob and the website 1, I have a couple hours that I can go banging away. And
yes, and we can certainly make it short if you need to get back to your slides. So.
Yeah, cool.
So,
Good to see you guys.
yeah, good to see you, Faith and Cess. Matt, bye for now.
Bye.